Welcome to Best Boys, a film podcast, an amateur film study podcast for the average Joe, the buffest buffs, and the cringiest bingers. I'm your host, JP, and I'm joined by my brother from the same mother, professional Hollywood videographer,
Kory with a story. Welcome back, everybody, on the new era of Best Boys. It's got a new theme song, intro, all that jazz. Feeling energetic.
Yeah, so we had to make a couple of changes to the theme song. Love the old one, love the new one. The new one's actually from my own musical project, but figured we want to use something that we can't get copyright issues from, and so here you go. It's from my band BB Guns from a few years ago. But we're back with Best Boys, same old Best Boys, maybe a fresh coat of paint, audio paint for your ears. But we are back. I did have a little snappy thing to say. I forget, it was going to be like, I'll show you how I make a geek, and it's by making them listen to Best Boys or film podcasts or something like that. I think that was what I had in my head.
Just temporary. It's just a temporary job. Just
temporary job. Just temporary.
A little bit of Best Boys.
But yeah, welcome back, and we are ready to roll here. So we have two spooky movies today. Not really, but yeah, really, and that's kind of how I would describe Guillermo del Toro, director extraordinaire, who's done both of our films, Pan's Labyrinth and Nightmare Alley. Guillermo del Toro, I have a very eclectic association with, just because of video games and you just the Hellboy and Blade 2 and Critters, and he's done. If you look at his filmography, it's pretty diverse, I would say, even though there's so much of it that is the same, like the practical effects or what have you. But yeah, what is
solid lighting?
What's your history with the Toro, man?
So I didn't know Blade 2 was Guillermo del Toro until you just said. So I would say that's probably the first Guillermo del Toro movie I've seen as a kid, at least. But Hellboy is the one I really knew. I've seen it a bunch as a kid, and I always just thought it was like the style is so wild with just the crazy monster practical effects, and the intentional use on like the big set pieces and everything. And when you mix it with his he does this weird colored lighting. It's always like heavy golds or heavy blues and stuff, and just it's so unique. And so now when you I would say Pacific Rim is the one thing that's which is also crazy to think that that's the same guy as Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Because that's like you could say Hellboy is like a comic book movie, but Crimson Peak is like a kaiju thing that's just very much, or not Crimson Peak, Pacific Rim.
Yeah, Pacific Rim.
Crimson Peak, yeah. But it's all over the place. But I would say a lot of hits, though, mainly hits.
I've never even heard of Crimson Peak for some reason. Now that
I've seen parts of it. That's a horror movie, obviously.
When did it come out? 2015, huh?
Yeah, it's like in a creepy mansion in like a Transylvania looking mountain.
Yeah.
Thing. That's all I really remember of it. I remember seeing the trailer and maybe 10 minutes of it in passing.
He was also involved with The Strain, which was a popular television show. I feel like it was popular in the first season, and then I kind of didn't hear as much about it. But yeah, he's got quite a diverse background. Obviously, I mentioned the video game thing because he works with Hideo Kojima, who is most known for the Metal Gear series. They worked together on the Silent Hills project, which was a demo that never really went further than that, but it's still a really cool horror experience if you're able to get your hands on it to this day. I still have mine downloaded to my PS4. And I don't think it's up for download anymore.
No. You can buy specific PS4s on eBay that are marked up with PT pre-installed. which is terrible because that was so good. I remember you, me, and Joel playing that for the first time. It was like the scariest shit any of us would play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Started that whole like horror video game renaissance.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it started it. I think it was like right because like it was kind of
I
the
was in the
indie
middle of it, I
wave
guess.
before that was like Amnesias and whatnot. But it
And yeah,
definitely
that and
was
I
following
think
in that
Outlast came out.
footsteps. Yeah, Outlast is after. Amnesia is definitely the father of that wave, I
Mhm.
would say. But all right, it's not a video game podcast. So we got two big ones today. I was double excited to do this. We already had it planned, but they did announce the Oscar nominees, and we are gonna delve into that I think a little bit next week, depending on what we end up falling into. But Nightmare Alley is the new film from Guillermo del Toro, and it was just nominated for best film. I don't remember if it was what else it is past that. I know there's more nominations, um, but it is so that's exciting, and so I think we're gonna try to do all the rest of the Oscar nominees this year. We've already watched most of them. We did Power of the Dog. We did. Uh, we're doing Nightmare Alley this week. What else did we do?
We did Licorice Pizza. We did Dune
Belfast,
and Belfast.
Dune.
You did
So
Don't Look Up, but I need to see
I
that one.
watched Don't Look Up, but I didn't do it for the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
And yeah, so just best director didn't get that. And I'm sure it's got some other things, but that best picture, that was a big deal. I think people were kind of sleeping on it after it was reported it was not doing anything at the box office, and it was quickly moved to streaming, which is how we ended up watching it. Do you want to start? I feel like we should start with Nightmare Alley, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, and this might sound dumb, but when I would go to the movies and you'd see the Death on the Nile poster and the Nightmare Alley poster, like it looks very similar movies, but
They
this
both have like Art
nothing.
Deco,
Yeah.
like vibes in the trailers and the posters. I kept thinking that whatever the movie you just said, Death on the Nile. I kept thinking of that with that what's that movie about the train? It was a mystery of the train that
Oh, Murder on the Orient Express.
yeah. It seems like that's the spiritual successor to that. Even though
Yeah,
I don't think it's done by Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh did Murder on the Orient Express. He's in the Death of the Nile, Kenneth Branagh,
yeah.
but he's not. He didn't direct it. He directed, I think, Murder on the Orient Express. I
I
think.
think are those books too, like a book series, or is it just like random?
I don't know if there's any relation. I honestly don't feel like looking into it right now, but
Yeah,
we can. Um, but
that,
yeah. So I think are we ready to jump in? Did you have anything else? You just discovered that he did Blade 2. Um,
this man's catalog is so eclectic. Is that the right word? Because it's so like all over the place, and it's all good movies. Hellboy 2, I've heard is even better than the first. Pan's Labyrinth was amazing. Obviously, everything. I don't know. He's just, everything he does in his style is very much it's him, but it's all really good. And I just want to see more now. I want to rewatch Blade 2. I want to rewatch the Hellboys and look into the early work to whatever Mimic
I don't
is.
know why. I just want to make a clarification. I mentioned Critters earlier. I don't know why I've associated him with one of those movies. I just I couldn't find anything on the wiki as I was looking through it while you were talking. Maybe I was thinking of something else. But yeah, crazy eclectic. And he does He's a comic book movies. He's got action kaiju's. He's got horror, a lot of horror, and whatnot. So what did you think about his newest Nightmare
Really
Alley?
good, really good, really fun. Like I know it's like a more serious movie, but it's I kind of wish there was more of the first half of the movie in the second half,
Man, I
but
feel like you say
the
that all the time anymore.
well, no, just because I like the cast in the first. Like Willem Dafoe is so great in this, and I wish he was in the whole movie instead of just the
I
first
feel
half.
like people, because
But
of the way that they advertised it, that people are gonna feel like that because they're gonna expect it to be more about the circus and not
yeah,
realize that it's only the first, not even a half, probably like the
yeah,
first third of the movie.
Yeah, once
Um,
we got to the when they ran away and did their own thing at like the halfway point, I was like, oh, okay, this is not that movie. Or whatever. But the ending is just crazy though. I really I thought it was good job. I thought Guillermo did a good job in just kind of like, because I didn't, you knew he was gonna get like fucked at the end, but I wasn't expecting the full circle completion at the very end, which I won't spoil
yeah,
yet, I guess.
really, you just went right
Um,
to it.
I'm sorry, because it's just that for me at least makes the whole rest of the movie so much better.
I didn't feel
Um,
that way. I didn't feel that way. I thought that the journey was more interesting than the ending for me. Um, I was more interesting in the story and how it was twisting and turning, and then
mm,
by the time we were getting to that point, I was like ready for it to happen. Like here, the just desserts moment, it all comes back. Everything comes full
mm,
circle, and we find out about some things, and then he dies. Like I knew about and I predicted the actual ending,
mm,
where he becomes what he oversaw in the beginning, Um,
yeah,
so like I don't think the ending really blew me away in any way. It's kind of what I expected. It was
yeah.
more I was more interested in how things evolved and developed. Honestly, I was really interested once the movie left the circus because I didn't know where it was going to go. Um,
Mm,
and it kind of turned into like the Prestige or like the
mm,
Illusionist, like we talked about that a few weeks ago. It became like a magician kind of a movie, and we were
yeah.
learning about like this magician that's blurring the lines between the real thing, and it's like like magic shows are not very far away from mentalist shows, and then which is not very far away from spook shows shit. Um, and it's really interesting to think about all that. And I was like seeing how his act developed, and then as soon as he started getting sucked into playing people out of their rich people out of their money, and just like you knew it was gonna end bad. And I do feel that the second half, if anything, dragged. And honestly, very little drags for this as being a 2.5 hour runtime. I'm super interested in the whole thing, but I would say in the second half, I was kind of like I said, I figured out where it was going. And I'm just like waiting for the shit to work out with Dale Doback, the stepbrother's dad. Like that whole like arc of the film.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that to work out so then the film could end, and it just
Yeah.
took a while. It was a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, and then I started checking out a little bit, and then the ending came, and it was interesting, and then I was happy about it. Does that any of that resonate with you?
Yeah, a little bit. I could say that. I got but just I was so interested with all of the sessions with the psychiatrist or psychologist in between, and then whenever Molly finds the little like the sketch thing of her being drawn in it too, it just kind of added a little bit more tension that kind of kept me going a little bit. I didn't for once feel like this movie was that slow or dragged at all. I I it, and what I said earlier about like the ending made me enjoy the rest of it more. The whole movie is great. Like it hooks you for, like you said, the 2.5 hours does not feel long. Um,
Yeah,
it's
no,
just that.
I didn't mean to imply that you didn't like the rest of it. I think that the ending just didn't have that impact for me. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Yeah, but the I liked all the flashback stuff that they did with like how they did the flashback stuff with Bradley Cooper and his dad.
Oh yeah, very
Because it was,
little. They're very short
yeah.
and small, and they're spread throughout, and that was good. Honestly, it's another good movie that has like slow reveals of information.
Mhm.
Um, not
And
as not as slow as like Power of the Dog,
yeah.
but definitely a nice like you don't know anything about Bradley Cooper, and you're kind of on the journey watching, seeing what he's doing and learning more and more about him as the story progresses
Yeah.
until we find out that he's a
Um,
big ass piece of shit.
yeah, he's just, oh my god. During the part where Pete dies, I was back and forth on like, was that intentional? It had to be intentional, right? Like, there's no way it wasn't an accident to give him like the
That's
poison
what the
alcohol.
Riz said that too, and I was like, yeah, he was an alcoholic, and
Yeah,
I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I think that it wasn't not. there was not supposed to be a benefit of the doubt. Like, yeah, Riss
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he murdered that guy. So when they revealed it at the end, she wasn't surprised.
Um. Yeah. The. Yeah. I like was rooting for Bradley Cooper probably for the first like a little over the halfway point until he started just getting like all about the money with the Grindle guy, with Dale Doback.
Wow, it took you all the way to Dale Doback to
Well, because he was like, because it was no, not Dale Doback, the judge. Sorry, the
the
judge.
first the
Whatever he,
first guy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the first
when he
rich guy.
first starts like, yeah, it's just about the
Really
money. Like we
embracing
just,
the spook show.
yeah, because that was their whole thing was like, there's you got to stop at a certain point or else you're gonna get in too deep. Um, but yeah, he's kind of just the worst at the end of it. But he gets, like he said, he gets his just desserts. I wanted to ask you, how did you feel about Ron Perlman in his 70s kicking some Bradley Cooper ass?
Oh, and I like that it was like a real thing. Like he's an aging strong man, and
Hmm.
is like his knees are shot and whatever. Yeah, I thought Ron Perlman was good. And there's a few different actors in this that are in other Guillermo del Toro films. Dale Doback is one. I should probably look up his name, the actor's name. And Ron Perlman being the other. Um, I'm surprised Doug Jones isn't in here somewhere.
There's no monster. I figured the monster was gonna like the geek was gonna be a monster, and then it ended up being a real person, like a
Yeah,
regular
I like
person.
that there was no monster. I like that this
I
film
do
was
too.
grounded and not like it was different for him. It didn't rely on a really cool effect monster to carry it. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. This film's really good. I really like the mystery of it. And it's like there's not really a mystery to solve, but it's like just the where's this gonna go. It's very noir. It
Hmm.
is so people are calling this a remake, and I think that's it's slightly inaccurate. There is a film, original 1947 film, that is called Nightmare Alley, but they're both based on a novel. So I think that
Hmm.
the all the shit around the actual official shit around the new movie says that it is a adaptation of the book.
Hmm.
And I saw people in comments after the Oscar noms were announced, and they're like, a remake should not be nominated for best picture, or a remake should not be nominated for Oscars. And like, because the
Hmm.
people are probably they're mad that like No Way Home didn't get one or something.
Oh God.
I didn't
But
see that, so I can't. And I heard it is good, but
it is
um,
really good, but I don't think it's Oscar good. It's a
oh,
different
you
kind of
saw
good.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes we need you to be uh
Yeah.
our
It's. I
man
mean,
on the street.
it's fantastic if you're into the lore and everything. It's phenomenal. Like it gives you everything you want. But if that's you're not into that world, then it's like just a exciting action movie. But it's not Oscar worthy. Like
Is it dude
like
would you say all right, real quick. This is just a quickie. What let's just bury it inside our Nightmare Alley review. Would you say that it is better than Spider-Verse? Cuz Spider-Verse is one of the
um,
best superhero movies, I think.
I'd say
It's
if
in my
not
top
tied,
it's not my
I would
top
say
it's probably top 5.
if not tied with the top, if it's not if Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the top, it's not tied with it. It would say it's either tied with it or slightly
And
below.
Spider-Man 2 is above both of those for me. You have Spider-Man for all
Oh,
my
okay. I think
Spider-Man movies, it's Spider-Man 2, Spider-Verse question mark.
I would say Spider-Verse, No Way Home, Spider-Man 2.
Oh, well, then we're already fighting, so. All right. All right, fuck it. Nightmare Alley.
This is
So,
the
there's a
movie where
great
Peter
cast.
Parker dies.
Great cast in this movie, and they kind of like use them in installments, which I think is cool. Like Bradley Cooper, Kate Blanchett, Rooney Mara, Toni Collette, who's great and everything. I love Toni Collette. Willem Dafoe is doing Willem Dafoe shit, and he's great. Dale Doback's actor is Richard Jenkins. Ironically, I don't know why that's ironically. Um,
That's another silly name, I guess.
but
Another
no, I know
stepbrother
somebody. I
dominant.
know someone in my real life with that last name, and I think
Oh, gotcha.
that's what it is. Um, but so it's a really cool freak show. If you're into like freak show stuff, this is definitely for you. If I think it really captures that well. I definitely liken it to a freak show, like prestige kind of a movie.
Hmm.
It's not quite as like big ass complicated twist that you have to like solve at the end, or like
Hmm.
retroactively solve at the end, but it is in that kind of a vibe. Like it's a little slower, but it's really interesting, and you're want to know how it's gonna unfold. And there's crime and drama and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, what
I wanted
what
to talk about. Oh, sorry. I was going to say I wanted to talk about the cinematography because and we can go in a little bit with Pan's Labyrinth as well, just because of how Guillermo's style is with everything. But I would say this is out of everything I've seen the most like technically like crisp, sharp, clean. The stuff with Kate Blanchett and Bradley Cooper in her office, like when he's on the couch, is just like you see every little speckle of like skin wrinkle and detail and everything, and it just with the blue and the orange and everything just mixed well. This one felt a lot less like where I feel like Shape of Water felt a lot like stage lighting, like play lighting. This has that a little bit, but a lot more like stylized, if that makes sense. Like there's
Yeah,
a
I
lot
would say
more
that.
shadow shape, a lot more saturation. Like because there's always saturation in Del Toro's movies, but this
The
one just
color
had it.
palette is the same as I would say as Shape of Water.
Yeah.
It's like identical. Even Pan's
Yes.
Labyrinth has that same color palette. It's a little
That's
more.
his like
It's a little
go-to.
more gray, but than green, but it's still very green.
Mm.
Um, Yeah,
It's
I did. I really liked the like you said during the therapist scenes. Like her office is really beautiful. It's like amber. Like
mhm.
there's like browns and golds and oranges in it, and it just turns. It just feels very like this amber room. And her like her the chair, like the ottoman thing, whatever it's called, not ottoman, like
The
chaise
Chaise
lounge.
Lounge.
Yeah, the chaise is like really stylized and it's like very sophisticated and minimal. But then there's like a fucking recording device thing in the wall. And yeah, I really did think that was cool. Obviously, the circus stuff was all right on point of what you'd expect with that creepy circus vibe. Um, but yeah, and then it gets to be like it takes place during the World War One just starts during the movie, and it's like very like he's in like rich. And once he gets out of the slums and out of the freak show world, he's in these rich places and mansions and he's upper scale things versus the first half of the film. Um, and it definitely has like it's very Art Deco and it's very of the time. It has it's like it encapsulates that like stylized time really well.
Yeah, I was gonna say the on to add to that, the production design on a lot of his movies are so well done. The attention to detail, it's like how I feel about Lynch's Dune, where there's just so much effort into all these like the little details of the set to make it look a very certain way or a distinct way. And it's just so unique, but at the same time, it still comes off as just like this is his kind of movie. This is his kind of backgrounds. These are his kind of like production designs, like set design stuff. Um, it's just so good. It's like clean, like even the parts that are supposed to look dirty and grime still feel clean, and like which we'll get in more in Pan's Labyrinth. But it's a great juxtaposition of just like the horror aspect with the clean look of the film at the same time with so much of what he does.
Um, yeah, I don't know if clean is a clean I get technically, but I don't think like I think everything looks kind of gritty and dirty. Like especially like I think there's a huge juxtaposition in the first half of the film versus the second half of the film versus everything being dirty and then everything being clean and um like less faded and whatnot. Still the same color palettes, but yeah, much more crisp.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like not like the film itself is like not like textured like you would on like a on something a little more raw looking like a Good Time or something, or it's very modern shot, modern sharp lenses that everything is
oh, it
just
wants to be
has
like
this,
it wants to be very clear. Yeah, yeah, like it's
yeah,
very
that's what I mean. Like
yeah,
it's a
it's
good
very clean in terms of the picture. But as far as what's on it, like it shoots, dirty, textured things, and I think that is a nice um, juxtaposition. It's kind of in a lineage of like David or Tim Burton, or like especially Pan's Labyrinth gives big boy Tim Burton vibes. Um,
Mm.
and oh, there's somebody else that was just on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, do you see that?
Yeah, oh, for sure. That's a similar thing too, because even with Tim Burton's like take like Corpse Bride or something, where it's very much like it's claymation, it's and grading all that stuff, but everything is so shot and well presented, and everything is still lit properly, but still has the mood to it.
Yeah, he's a big guy about set design and stuff.
Yeah, it's yeah, I definitely could see that as like inspiration for this kind of stuff. Um, it just
I
makes
think
sense.
I wanted to say the subject matter of the film. It very much is, I think, fits with today because we definitely live in I think, a grifter society. Very much a lot of what the internet is and politics and whatever. It's a lot of grifting and just like
Hmm.
duping people. And it doesn't feel like we've come that as much as we're in the age of information with the internet and whatnot. We have not come much farther than people getting tricked by traveling salesmen. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's it's Web 3.0, baby.
This is
Uh,
definitely I think I don't know if how on purpose it is, but it has to like that must has to be kind of in mind just with how much grifting is like the story of this movie. The movie's not about. I feel like it's more about grifting than it's about any like carnival, like circus carnivals, freak
mm,
shows, even about like mentalist shit. I think it's just more about sophisticated grifting because he talks about once Kate Blanchett comes in, he's like, "You're no different than me. You're just a smart high end grifter." But
yeah,
we're just speaking different languages, but we do the same thing. And
yeah,
it's definitely the core of the movie is about grifting.
yeah. Um, yeah, especially because with the way the internet is with the dumb like NFTs and things like that, where everything's just like, yeah, you buy this now and then you mark it up and sell it, and then you'll get a percentage of every time it's sold and all this. It's all just sounds like
But even
Ponzi
like
schemes.
politics, like that's
Like, well, yeah,
literally
and then,
all of like Trump shit is like based on lies. And no, I mean not even just Republicans, but boy, in the conservative movement right now, a lot of it is based on
yeah.
misinformation and tricking people into believing things that aren't true. And if it becomes their reality, then that's just as good.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, you still have people in Congress peddling QAnon shit, like
I
just
don't
and
think
people just eat it up.
that don't think Donald Trump lost the election.
Yeah, and yeah, and then they create an insurrection and
Yeah, we're living
ridiculous.
in this. We're still
The
dealing with
ultimate
this.
grift.
I think that like there was a period where things were more regulated in that regard, but the internet just kind of blew the whole thing open.
Yeah,
And we're living in a new grift age, which is fitting since it's the early part of the new century. Crazy, we're almost a quarter of the way through. Um,
good. Getting
the,
old.
any other things you want to touch on with this movie?
No, I kind of wish we visited the we do once for a small scene when a couple of the people come to visit Molly, but I wish there was more of the cast from the carnival like mixed in towards the second half because I like the cast of characters. But I do understand that you have to serious it up and focus it in on just like it is a movie about Bradley Cooper essentially just like becoming his father.
Well, when it was
Um,
him, it was supposed to be like about him. He's elevating himself out of that small time shit,
yeah,
Like he's
yeah,
and it's about, growing beyond it and then he becomes full circle. And not only does he return, he is now the lowest man on that totem pole. The possible lowest by being, the geek. And
mm,
it's real. What I wanted to ask you about the ending. What did you think? Not about the ending, but the like when he replies about the geek job, and he's like, "Mister, I was born for it."
it's like
Um,
laughing and crying.
like, yeah. Do you think that he's somehow thinks he can beat it, or do you think that he can't? That he will? Like he's just like resigned himself to become this raving
I
drug addled madman.
Yeah, I think he's just accepting it as his fate. That this is what he's become. He's a drunk like his dad, and this is just like everything he did, all of his actions that he did to try to not become this led him to be this, and it's just
He's
I
given
just took
up.
it as it's fate. Like
Yeah.
there's no sense of fighting it.
That's interesting. I like that. I wasn't sure how I felt, how to interpret it. I like that. Yeah. I feel like there's this movie's long but it's really like it's something that you should see for yourself. Like just understand what the subject is and know that it is not circus freak movie the whole time. I think that is going to be a deal breaker for some people
And it's not even like
if they snow
grotesque
dog.
circus freak stuff. Like there's no monsters. There's nothing actually gross or creepy or anything. You know what I mean? It's like it's more about the behind the scenes of it.
Yes, and it's the reality of all this shit a little bit. Con man life, grift life,
Yeah,
carny life, etc. So
yeah.
yeah, I
So
think if you go into it thinking it's gonna be a Guillermo del Toro monster circus freak vibe, it's not. It's just not. You're not gonna be pleased. You're not gonna be happy. But it's still a really really cool story, and it's just a glimpse into a world that is super fascinating um it's not, you think that, oh, we've gone so far beyond this shit, like people are so much smarter now, and they can Google things on their phones and take pictures and videotape everything and yada yada, but it ain't enough. People are still stupid. That's the moral of the story.
oh, that's me for sure. But I'm still stupid.
All
But
right,
anyways, so what are you thinking about this? What are you
I'm
leaning
giving
respect?
it a 4 out of 5.
That's what I'm sitting at. I originally it was that sitting around like a 3.5, 4, and then it like sat with me for the day, and I just like kept thinking about it more. I rewatched the scene, and it's really good. It's very good.
I did. If you recall, Shape of Water, our first episode, I also gave a 4 out of 5.
Interesting.
I
You
kind of
think it's
think
as
that
good?
a lot of his like more critical movies are like on that level, and then it's like your Hellboys and Blades are like in the threes and
Mm.
2.5s and 3.5s and whatnot. But yeah, what'd you say? You gave it a 4 also.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right.
It's really good. It's really good. It doesn't have that. I didn't have like an emotional, like deep connection or anything to give it that 5, but it was still really good and recommend it. Worthy of the
Yeah,
Oscar nom.
yes, yes. Um, Definitely worthy. Like when I first saw it, I was surprised when I saw it got nominated because of just like the vibe the internet was putting out about it. But it is really good. I don't. We did mention that Pete is played by David Strathairn. I don't know if that's how you say that, but he is the love interest from Nomadland.
Oh,
He's very gray in this movie versus
yeah,
he's like white haired in this movie versus in that.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
but yeah, he's really good in this. Like I really liked Pete's character. I
Hmm.
thought was really interesting. I like Xena and Pete. Like as much as like I did like the rest of the movie, Xena and Pete were my favorite characters.
Yeah, I completely forgot. You get to see Bradley Cooper's dick in the first scene with Xena.
I didn't see it stick.
It's in the water. You see when
It's
she
like a
goes to grab it.
silhouette, but it doesn't
Like
like you
I
don't
mean, you can see
actually
the
see
difference
his
between
dick.
pube and shaft there. And
I
like,
guarantee that's not his real dick. I guarantee that's CG dick. Because you could
yeah,
easily
you
just do that in the water, make it like a blurry pube dick. Um,
yeah. I don't
Speaking of
know.
CG, because CG is going to be a big discussion in our next film, because and I know that like CG should never like ruin a movie if the movie is good as written and as shot and as acted and etc. Um, but this was one where the CG kind of really took me out of it a little bit.
Really?
I
I
can't.
did not feel that way.
Yeah, I can't lie to you. It didn't make me hate it or anything. I appreciated it, and just the seeing the like all the practical stuff was so good, but all the
Mhm.
CG stuff, which wasn't even the worst CG I've seen. It's just that it compared to the practical stuff, it looks so bad, and
Mm.
I just like it takes me out of it. And even if this is like a fantasy movie, it is very much a creepy Alice in Wonderland is definitely the vibe that this movie is, and it succeeds in so many ways. But man, there are some movies from the 2000s that CG does you don't even hardly notice. I think the prequels are obviously they were so ahead of their time, but man, the prequels look great. It's pretty much still to this day.
You really? I think Attack of the Clones did not hold up well.
I think the
Uh,
battle droids and all that kind of stuff looks fine still. I haven't seen it in a few, like literally just a couple years, but I remember being surprised on how well that looked versus like Matrix Reloaded with the Smith's clone fight
yeah.
and this and other things. It looks like low textures. Like the models are nice, but the textures
Mhm.
are bad. Which is kind of your Xbox 360, PS3 era, in a nutshell, and which this predates just by a little bit. Um,
The only CGI in this that I thought was like noticeable to the point where I thought was bad was just like the first time the like mantis stick bug turns into the fairy
the fairies look
and it's
not
up around.
good. Honestly, the stick bug was not terrible, and it just got more and more they used CG. It was like more and more. I was like, God, the frog looked not good. The toad frog
I,
thing.
yeah, I
Um,
didn't think that was that bad.
I did not
It was
like
mostly
it.
darkness.
The fairies are the worst offender, but also towards the end, and this is more of a nitpick, but there's explosions that you see from like from a distance. It's two of
Mhm.
them, and both of them are CG, and because of this is more of I think because of 4K. There's like these really bad halos around the
Uh,
explosions,
wow,
and
I didn't notice that. Wow.
yeah, like artifacts almost like around the explosions, and they're in the distance, so you're not like seeing it up close or
Mhm.
anything. It's not like a deal breaker in any way. And honestly, none of this is even gonna make me downgrade the movie at all. Uh, but it is something that was jarring and was like immersion ruining, and I really just kept thinking. You have all this awesome practical effects. I would have loved to see more. And I know it's a
Mhm.
budget thing. It's probably cheaper at that point to do that CG than make you can't even make a giant frog monster or a giant these fairies flying around or whatever. I understand,
Yeah.
but it does date it compared to other things. I think there's a reason Star Wars, even with the original Star Wars, like the reason why it holds up so well is because it's like really good practical effects.
Mhm.
And like knowing where you can use special effects but not have it be immersion breaking, I guess.
Yeah, it's like what's the phrase is use CG to enhance practical, not to replace practical is like the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
how I like it.
but then
Um,
we got to a place in the 2000s, like late 2000s, where it became cheaper to do CGI than practical, and everybody just wanted to do CGI to save money.
yeah, I mean we're still kind of there.
Yeah.
It's we're still kind of there, and I think it takes a budget to do practical well, or a smaller movie. I think that's like
Mhm.
Shape of Water. I think you were able to have the monster for the whole movie, not just in these small little bits,
Mhm.
because um, because it was a lower budget. It wasn't as grand of a film, I think, as this or
Mhm.
Nightmare Alley even. Um,
Yeah, the
but
budget on this one's only 19 million, which for 2006 is still pretty low.
yeah, I
But
just
the
looked at
movie's still
that.
big though.
The what?
Um,
The
I said
movie's
the Pan's
big.
Labyrinth feels it still feels like big, like the production quality wise. I was
Yeah,
shocked with
yeah.
how.
All the military stuff looks good, and it's not like anything big. I think they avoided, any big battle. Or it's all small town, small village, thing. So like, I don't think we gave any kind of explanation about the movie yet. So it takes place during the first or during World War II, and the fascists in Spain have taken over, but there are still resistance fighters fighting them, and it's kind of what that's what it's like all about. And the protagonist, her daughter, is she the daughter of the captain, or is he's the stepfather, right?
He's the stepfather. Yeah, she's
Okay.
the daughter of just the wife.
Yeah,
But
just the
the
yes.
baby is the son of the captain and the
Yeah,
wife.
that I do know. So there's a baby. Her mom is pregnant with this fascist captain's baby, and he's a big piece of shit. As they establish many scenes throughout the film, and he's all he wants is to make sure that this baby is born, and he's putting all the resources to that, and it's kept the girl safe, from harm. But there's like secret resistance members all through their like house, and like they're friends with all these different resistance people, and then her mom gets sick because of the something to do with the pregnancy. She gets really sick, and it ends up her going into this magic world, the fantasy world, which is fucking, the ending is buck wild. I forgot about. I'm
Yeah.
just remembering the ending. It's pretty wild. But how would you explain like how she gets introduced to the Pan world?
Um. Well, so the girl's into fairy tale books a lot. Like it's mentioned a bunch of times that she's too old to be reading the fairy tale stuff, and she reads the baby in her mom's tummy a fairy
That's
tale
right.
story. And but she keeps noticing this little like stick bug that she thinks is a fairy. Um, it looks like the size of a praying mantis, but like a stick, more of like those stick bugs, but with wings, I guess, something like that. And one eventually gets into her room on her first night there because she's all scared from hearing all the noises and winds from the new house. And she's like, "Oh, are you a fairy? They look like this." And then the thing turns into like a humanoid fairy and leads her into the woods, and she's just like apprehensive but still cool with it. And then we run into the fawn when just shit just gets buck wild from there.
Yeah, the fawn is super cool. Love the way he looks, and
Yeah, really good.
one thing watching this movie, I was really surprised at how much Spanish that I know. For having taken 6 years of it, I was like really surprised at how much I understood. But yeah, it's all really really cool. It's a creepy Alice in Wonderland vibe. Um, Honestly, a lot of my favorite parts I think were with like the shit with the captain, and like the people trying to resist and trying to like escape and running around and all that stuff. That was like some of my favorite stuff.
I like that stuff. I was so into the other world stuff, and I really wish we got more of it. And I feel like we, I mean, it's intentionally so, but you only really get her going to another world like twice, like one in the middle and one in the ending,
Yeah.
and or I guess three times if you count the tree. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
cool, and the whole time I'm just like, wow, the whole thinking the whole thing's real until like the little ending thing, where it throws everything up for debate, but. Um, it just gave this so much more like these like heartful moments because you're just like this girl overcoming these things and making progress, and she's like feeling it's like her distraction, it's her escape from her like shitty life and everything. And I kind of wish there was more of that stuff in it, but the none of that, you can't get any of that feel goodness without how
Yeah, I don't think
awful everything else
the movie would not
without
be
in
the
the
movie
background.
without, if it was just fan.
Yeah.
It would be like a Disney movie if it was like that. I think what makes
Um.
it special is how it is broken up into, like she goes on a little quest, and then we have like the
Mhm.
fallout and what's going on in the real world, and for a little while, and then she goes on another little adventure, and then we have this moment of how it's changed the world. And she her mom's getting better for a while, and she with this weird root thing that comes alive. And um I think the way it is structured is what makes it such an interesting. It's like an easy watch because of that.
Mhm.
Because it's just like we're over here now, and then we're over here now, and then like once, just when you're just starting to get, not even say bored of one, but like it's been in one for a while, you just switch back to the other, and you're entertained. I'll go. I wonder what's going on here, and then you go over there. If that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I get that too. I get that too. I think because I forgot about the root part. Because you could count that as a little bit something more otherworldly. Um, But I really liked when she goes down through the chalk door to that monster at the big feast table. Like that world was so cool, and I wanted to see more of it, which like it is a good thing that that the movie does to keep you hooked. Um, but the monster design was just so creepy and so good. All the practical effects in this movie are so good. Um, Everything is convincing and real, like the eyeballs popping into the hands and stuff, like that CGI worked. Um,
Wait, the
for me,
eyeballs popping on the hands?
yeah, when the dude takes the eyeballs and then puts them in his hands, and he's like looking
That's
around,
practical. I'm pretty sure.
the eyes moving around in the
I don't
hands
Not
when
the
he's
eyes
walking.
moving, but the eyes on his hands are definitely practical.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
talking about
looking.
like when
It's
they're.
on the screen right now.
Well, I can't see the
I
screen.
know, but I'm looking at it. Is what I'm saying.
But I'm talking about like when he's walking and the eyes are moving around, darting around and stuff. Like I didn't know if that was practical or if I assumed it was CG. Um,
Well, yeah, I'm
but
sure
it
that you
could
could
have been
just
pretty
make.
cool.
They're just white eye. You could just use white eyes and then put the red dots moving around.
Um, I guess I don't know if it'd take like an animatronic or what, because the hands have to be wide open.
No,
But
I'm
that's
saying like
yeah.
if they had white eyes, they could easily put the red dot of CG on in
Oh yeah,
post.
yeah.
Like yeah, they could do that.
But
I'd have to see exactly the shot you're talking about. It's just like I'm looking at
the
like a million pictures of this guy, and it's definitely real eyes.
yeah. Um, what I want to say about that scene though was, man, was it horrific when that thing eats two of the fairies. Because you think it's gonna cut away or something, it just shows like the rip off, and like there's so much of this movie that has like the violence and gore to it, but everything with the girl, not everything, but like a lot of stuff with the girl makes it feel like it's like a different kind of movie, and then you're just going back and forth. Does such a good job
It's
between like
definitely an
the.
R-rated
Yeah, I didn't
Alice in
know. I said
Wonderland.
that before. Didn't know it was R-rated going in, um, and pleasantly surprised because it gets gory, it gets gritty, and it's such a good job going back and forth between the two like
Yeah, there's a
feelings.
lot of juxtaposition, like the brutal aspects of the real world, and then like there's this fantasy world isn't all like fun, like it's
Mhm.
dangerous and whatnot. Um, just
Yeah,
like everything looks so good. That scene probably with the Eye Man is probably one of my favorites. It's probably my favorite of all the fantasy world stuff. Just with how everything looks and whatnot.
yeah. The I this is a dumb question, but who's Pan? Is Pan the name of the fawn?
The fawn is Pan, yes.
All right. Does he ever say it? I don't think he ever said it.
That's like a mythology thing. And I don't
Okay,
think, and
okay.
honestly,
I didn't know if it was like going in that direction or if it was his own thing.
in the cast, he is listed as just the fawn, but Pan is a mythological fawn.
Gotcha.
He's a god.
Gotcha.
He's like a fawn god.
Was that in the Greek mythology?
Yeah,
The yeah. Um but yeah, the ending was got me real in the feels. I was real sad. Uh from both like the last like the big moment that happens when she gets shot. But then also uh when it goes into the fantasy thing, because it like, got my hopes. I was like, oh, maybe this stuff is it is real, whatever. And then it cuts back to her just dead with all the people around, and it was just oh, so sad. This had that emotional moment that I needed. It was done so well because I didn't think it was gonna go in that direction. I thought that it was just gonna, we're gonna see like some underworld shit, and maybe somebody would come in and save her or something, and just oh, it was
I
sad.
think that's what makes the ending good. Is that like you're meant to question if it's real, if any of it was real or not. Like if like it's just she just died and that was that. Um,
Yeah,
Like it wasn't any of the magic stuff that saved the day in the end. She just died, and the resistance people killed the captain, and then that was it.
yeah. Do you think that it was real, or do you think it was just in her head?
I think it's real, because it's so much. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that but it is meant for you to question it. Like and then
Mm-hmm.
like the afterlife that we see? Is it just what she's imagining right before she dies?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
What keeps me in the I think it's real camp is because of the root thing. Like when the baby root thing died, that's and her book like lit up. That's like with the red. Then her mom like started having red, like blood come out of her.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, that was yeah. Oh, I like that because it was like seemed like it was gonna be everything was fine, everything's gonna be all right, her mom's gonna be okay, and then it's like, oh fuck, it's all gonna be bad,
mhm.
and now it's just she needs to escape for herself and take this baby with her brother, if she can, and like yeah, the movie kind of the goals of the film kind of change. Like you realize it isn't gonna be happily ever after at that point,
Yeah.
which is what was another thing that is good about it. It was really cool about it.
Yeah. It was a nice it definitely subverted my expectations. For sure. And even with this being, from '06 and how many things we've seen since, it was still
I feel like everything
uh
subverts your expectations. I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
you
I
always have for you. I want to talk about this because I feel like you're like I never read anything. I never, go into it. I think you watching trailers beforehand is bad. If you're
oh, I
gonna
try
watch,
not to.
if you're gonna watch a trailer, then you have to read the synopsis. You're not the
The
whole plot synopsis, but like the blurb that they put with the movie, because that
yeah.
gives you a way better idea of what the movie actually is than watching a trailer where they snow dog you. I feel like you get snow dogged
The
more
only time
often
I
than most.
the only time I watch trailers is when we actually go to the theater, but I never look the trailers up for the stuff we're about to
I
see.
just like
It's been very rare that I've seen the trailer beforehand.
I don't know.
Uh,
I feel like there's been multiple examples recently where you're like, I thought that this is what the movie was because
well,
of
like
the
you have
things
a,
that
I
I
have a
saw
thought of
going into it. So I formed an idea of what I think this movie is, and then it's a hard time
trying to think of
grappling with it once you actually watch the movie that it is not this movie that you think it's going to be.
but I don't do that often though, because I don't. I honestly, God, don't
I
watch
feel like
trailers
I've
that often.
brought it up on I mean the tape. We'd have to go back on the tape, but I feel like I've brought it up on the episode a good few times.
Because there's times where I think the movie's gonna be a certain way, and then it isn't. Like while I'm watching it, and then you ask me if I watched the trailer or anything, or if I
I
was.
guess that's true. Like, but even if it's like going off of the beginning, like sometimes the like red herrings and whatnot are a thing. Like if it feels like it's this genre and it's gonna go like this genre, then sometimes it's gonna go the opposite way, or it's gonna change into something else and be a different movie. Like the
Mhm.
genre doesn't constrain it to what it's supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think what it
know if
was was
maybe you're not really doing that, but that's like on. I keep. I feel like I keep hearing that.
no. Last week was I watched the trailer for 20th Century Women after I watched the movie, because when I was reading about it,
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that one because the
mm,
last episode was
I'll say that was the most recent one
no, it wasn't
of
last
bringing,
episode.
but
It was about movies you
yeah.
didn't like. I think, and but it's all right. No big deal. But I was thinking about you thinking that Nightmare Alley was going to be a circus movie for the whole thing, and it's definitely because, and I think other people are going to have that problem too if they just watch the trailer.
Yeah, I said I hoped it would be, but I didn't know what it was all going to be about. I mean, you just see the movie poster is the only thing I saw in theaters, and I just thought it reminded me of the Death in the Nile poster.
They played the trailer at like several of the films that we've seen in theaters. They played it at Belfast.
I show up like right as the trailers
They
are
played it
ending
at
for the
Eternals,
most
I
part,
think.
but I don't know. Maybe I did see this one. I don't know. I don't remember.
It's not a big deal. None of this is a big deal in any way.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I wanted to push a little further into that because I mentioned it before. But that, yeah, no problem. All right. So I had no expectations with any of these films, and I feel like I really it's a practice thing, but I really the blank slate thing. Even when I read something or take something in, I really try to just be like, do I like this or not? And it is it's a hard thing to do. Um, and you probably are already doing that. But all right, so Pan's Labyrinth? What do you think? What are you giving this? Unless you have something else you
I
wanted to say about it.
this is a silly thing, but the pay attention, turn your speakers up as soon as they get with the captain's people and the soldiers and stuff. It is the squeakiest movie anytime those people are doing anything,
I didn't
and
notice
it's
this, and I
really
watched it on my monitor. Like I watched it in my computer, so I had my studio
that's the
monitors.
first thing I noticed, and I could not unhear it. Just like especially when they're walking in groups around on like the more establishing shots, it's just all you hear is like that leather crunch and squeak. It's not like a high pitched squeak. It's more like that, like when you clench a leather glove and you hear that kind of
Yeah,
creaks.
yeah.
It's like
Oh,
that, but all the
the
time.
fascists with their boots.
Yeah,
Fascists
that's
love
how you,
boots and gloves, man. That's their thing.
they love
Um.
leather. And
So what are you giving it?
I think 4.5.
Really?
I want to give it a 5, but I for some
Really?
reason it's stopping me from giving it a 5.
I'm no objections. For just let
I
me just get that right out of the way. No objections.
It's really good. It was so good. Like the ending was very good. Both these
I
movies, great endings that make me like the rest of the film more.
I am giving it a 4 also. So all three of these films, Shape of Water, which we did in the episode 1, Nightmare Alley, and this, I all give 4s. They're all great. They're all great. I don't really know how I think I said I like Shape of Water the best. I think I probably like this second best. Um, but Nightmare Alley also is right up there. So I'm really yeah. This is for someone who has a lot of range. I think this is like three really good movies to watch from him because they have a lot of connective tissue and they're definitely on like the more critical side versus his more like fun pulpy movies like Hellboy or Blade 2. So yeah, check them out for sure.
Do you think this is the last question I wanted to ask?
Yeah.
Um, do you think that if the girl from Pan's Labyrinth wouldn't have died, she would grow up to become the girl from Shape of Water?
This sounds like a meme that involves Goku somehow.
What?
Like this memes are like they're trying to like make crossovers happen. It sounds like a game theory on YouTube episode.
I don't. As soon as I thought about it, I was like, "Oh man, the little girl's look like reminds me of the lady's look in Shape of Water." And I was like, "Well, she has this monster upbringing from a kid from eating these things. Maybe that's why she falls in love with the fish monster
Yeah,
later in
yeah.
life."
Yeah, maybe. I think the time might not
It was a
match up
fan fiction.
right. I don't think I don't know what year Shape of Water is supposed to take place in, but I imagine all of
Probably the
his films
60s.
seem to always take place around the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that is they
Uh,
definitely are dark-haired female protagonists. It's set in 1962. You are right.
yeah.
So she,
See, I'm gonna have to make a fan
though I
fiction
will
about
say that
it. A whole
Sally
website.
Hawkins is probably older. Is probably older than 25 or something
Oh yeah, she's probably in her like mid to late 30s.
in that movie. She's 45 now. All right. All right. Well, that's cool. That's cool. So, do we want to just move on next week and do the Oscar catch-ups, or do we want to knock something else off?
Well, how soon are the Oscars?
So I looked that up. I think the Oscars are in early March. Hold on, let me look that up.
I mean,
March
we have
7th
to get
or
through.
March 27th. So we got over a month. So we don't have to
Oh,
do it right
okay.
now.
Okay, yeah, because let's say we've what Coda, Drive My Car, King Richard, and West Side Story.
Yeah, we have 4 films to watch. It's Red Rocket is now on demand. We could finally do Red Rocket.
Ooh. Yeah, I'd be down. That's that in Florida Project, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be down to do that.
I know we keep saying we're going to eventually do older movies and not keep doing new ones, but there's just so much heat. So much heat.
True.
So yeah, it is now on Amazon Prime and Vudu for $13. So maybe we can link up for that one. But all right, so yeah, there you got it. Next week, Red Rocket in the Florida Project, directed by Sean Baker. I've seen Florida Project; it's amazing. And I'm excited to see the return of Dirt Nasty,
Mhm.
Simon Rex himself. And yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say? You want to plug before I give us the outro business?
No, not right now. Just working on stuff in the background. Got to go to LA tomorrow. Aside of
Oh.
that, just
All
same old, same old.
right. Well, make sure you circle around and follow the Best Boys Film Pod. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So I'm Slob Thomas on all the things. He's Kory with a story with a K. And we'll be back next week. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and do all the things that you're supposed to do. And big ups to BB Guns for our new our new theme song. And so make sure you check that out, called Valley. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Oh, I guess we'll talk about this off. So I'll see you next week. We're gonna talk about Oscars though soon.
See ya.
Bert.